Hey everyone, my guest today is Zhailon Levingston. Zhailon is an award-winning director and activist who most recently directed Cats, the Jellicle Ball on Broadway. At 27, he became the youngest Black director in Broadway history, directing the Broadway production of Chicken and Biscuits. His other directing credits, or maybe I'll say some of his other directing credits, include Wonderful Town, Reconstructing, Little Miss Perfect, Patience, and Table 17. He is a board member of the Broadway Advocacy Coalition, artistic director of Inheritance Theater Project, and co-created a Theater of Change course at Columbia University School of Law that is still being taught today as we speak. And once a year, this beautiful human returns to his hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana to direct. And I'm so thrilled to welcome you, Jalen, to the podcast. Hello.
Thanks for having me, Alana. Good to see you.
Oh my God. Do you know what? I've seen almost every one of those things I read. I mean, I know
Are you serious? That's
I am.
amazing.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
I believe Chicken and Biscuits is the first thing I saw post the shutdown.
Yeah.
Um, and then went on to sort of just be such a fan of yours. And then of course saw Cats Downtown, saw Table 17. Just there's been a lot of Jalen in my life, and I'm all the better for it. Um,
I love
I
that.
love in learning about you that your first job or your first Broadway job was selling tickets to shows in Times Square, and then you
Yes.
ended up selling concessions. And I love that now you are an award-winning director of one of the most phenomenal works of art I've ever seen, which is Cats, the Jellicle Ball. It's
Thank you.
astonishingly beautiful and inspiring. And I just want to tell my listeners around the world that as we speak, Jalen is in a rehearsal studio.
And we're doing some cats auditions, so I had to jump out and hopefully it's not too noisy, but I'm excited to be with your listeners.
It's exciting. So I want to talk about, let's start with cats because Bill Roush was on the podcast when it was at PAC,
Okay,
actually.
great,
And I
great.
actually tried to get you guys on together, but like coordinating two people's schedules is, let alone three, is difficult. But now I
Right.
get you all to myself and it's on Broadway. And so we can talk a little bit about how this love child, which is Cats, is now being shared on Broadway. And sort of how did that original creative partnership come about, if you don't mind
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah, for sure. It was around, for me, it was around 2000 and maybe 2023. Dates get really foggy in my head, so no one hold me to it. But um, I had been hanging with my roommate, and we happened to be watching Cats, the 1996 Pro Shot. And I don't know what made us put it on. And I don't know if we put it on ironically. I don't know if, like we were just going through YouTube and our algorithm was like, now look at this.
Yeah.
But I remember telling him, you know what would be crazy is if there were a production of Cats where no one was a cat. Wouldn't that be crazy? And we would just laugh and laugh at that because it seemed like such a ridiculous proposition. And then I started to talk to him about how, well, in the 20th century, people would call each other cat. And that was a colloquialism that is in American culture, right? Look at that cat. Ooh, that's a dangerous cat. Hey, come here, sly cat. And I was like, well, there's a pathway to being able to think about it, but I was like, there's no way that the Andrew Lloyd Webber estate would let something like this happen. Little did I know, Bill Roush had already been thinking about a production of Cats where they were cats. And where we would situate this show within a cultural context that kind of put two worlds together. And the casting director of that show came, or of our show, Cats, came to a show that I was directing at Second Stage. And he and another mutual friend of mine, we got drinks afterwards. And I was like, you won't believe the thing that I was thinking about. And I thought that they would respond by just like laughing at me. And they both were like, you need to talk to Bill Roush. And I was like, what? And Bill and I didn't know each other. We had never met. I don't think we had seen each other's work. And in 2 days, they had set up a Zoom between Bill and I. And in 2 hours on Zoom, by the end of that call, we were co-directing the show together.
When one goes to see this show, they are brought into the world of ballroom. And some people are there because it is something that really means something deeply to them. And
Hmm.
if it's just a phrase that you didn't even know what it was, you are
Right,
immediately immersed in this world and you're in, like you're
right.
full in. And also there are ways in which you learn more about the history of it in this production of the show now. Like there's such a
Hmm.
beautiful it's a celebration. It's a testimonial. It is a like everything is directly connected. This the connection between the history and what we're seeing now. I assume we're in present day in the show. I realize I don't know where we are in time.
We're out of time. I mean, it does
Wow.
take place in the present day, but I do think that there's this thing that happens with people in the theater where we kind of just like suspend above time a little bit, where we're in time as opposed to on time. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, but to be technical about it, it takes place today in the Broadhurst Theater.
yeah. Where I was just the other day. And I guess I would love to talk about the kind of hilarious, like, could you imagine like those moments we all have with our
Right,
roommates?
right.
First of all, oh my God, how magnificent that the universe like conspired in this
Unbelievable. Yeah,
very way.
yeah,
And that it's like the gift that keeps on giving,
right,
and more people are getting the gift of the show. But when you had the idea initially and then sort of thought about all the ways in which the word cat can mean so many different things,
right,
and obviously the joy, you go into that show and you're like, oh my God, how do I know every word to the show that I haven't listened to since I was
right,
11 years old? Like that's sort of a
right.
hilarious thing that happens as well. When did the very specific, like this idea, not only are we not doing cats, we are reimagining this, like this is the world we were going to set it in. Was that like a vision you had had right away and Bill had that and you're like, oh my God, we're mind
I
melding right
mean,
now?
Bill had already been thinking about cats and ballroom.
Okay.
They hadn't started working with actors on the show, but had already been thinking about those two worlds coming together. And so, what I was coming in with was an enthusiasm to continue to investigate. Can you do a production of cats that you tell to the world, these aren't cats, these are humans? And then
Yeah.
by doing that, do you have actually a different kind of deeper understanding of what we mean by cat? And so is there's this loop of we're not cats, no, we're not cats at all. But then by the end, you actually are like, maybe we are cats, and maybe that's the most kind of splendid version of humanity that we can be.
Can you, for the few listeners, or maybe many listeners, sadly, who aren't aware when we say ballroom and the
Yeah,
history of that, do you mind just doing like a mini TED Talk? So if they don't live in New York or they haven't seen it yet or don't have a bootleg copy of it yet,
totally, totally.
just what
Yeah,
we're talking about?
ballroom is both a culture, underground subset of the queer trans community, and it's also a competition. And so, much like I would actually say that for people who have an understanding of kind of the origins of hip hop, these two trains are kind of running in the same way, in that, like, hip hop is a genre of music and it's also a culture. So, it's a way of dress, it's dance, it's vernacular, it's community, it's all of those things. And ballroom also is a world within itself. And within this ballroom culture, you have the marginalized queer identities of America coming together in the late 70s, early 80s, when it really starts to blossom. I would say that like it starts a little earlier than that actually, but um coming together to figure out, can we make a space that is our own, wherein we can celebrate our own excellence and brilliance, and where we can parody, in a certain sense, the straight world and show back to it that it is as much of a performance as anything else. And in that way, actually, in a certain sense, level the playing field. So that's one way of thinking about ballroom. Ballroom also is a series of categories and competitions wherein people compete and win prizes. And so if you understand the language of competition, you'll get the show. If you've ever seen anything that two people are battling and a judge is deciding who wins, that's enough vocabulary for you to kind of understand what's going on. And then I would say that also, like ballroom, a big part of ballroom is the house system. And the house system is really chosen families coming together under the banner of a queer mother or queer father, who provide a chosen family structure of family for those who have been rejected, who don't feel like they have a place to be, or who just want additional community to participate in this event of queer culture and competition. Hopefully, I did that okay.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful, beautiful. And there are sort of mothers and fathers of the original community, as it were,
Yeah,
or the original
yeah.
form. And so okay, so House of Dots, right? Can
The House of
you
Gods. Yeah. So, like in the original Cats, there is a character named Jenny and Dots, and she is literally a caregiver and someone who helps kittens off of the street and provides a kind of finishing school for them. And it's so interesting. We have a cat in our show named Junior LaBeija, who is one of the architects of ballroom culture, the original MC, if you will. One of the elements of ballroom is an MC, the person who actually calls the categories out, and holds the space of the event. And one of the things when you hear him talk about ballroom and what it did for him is he was like, ballroom was a finishing school for us. It was a way for us to actually organize our brilliance in a certain way. And so anyway, going back to Jenny and Edods, the way we've interpreted that character in our version is making her a house mother, who has these kids in her house that she trains and helps them compete so that her house wins trophies and status and recognition. And so Jenny and Dots is the mother of the House of Dots.
the level of dance, the level of talent in this show is really incredible. And obviously you also have the magic of Andre de Shields, who enters the story and kind of gives it what he does in every room he walks into, which is this
Yeah.
kind of holiness,
Mhm.
and reverence and humor, um, and generosity. You know, if you talk to, it's so funny. I've had a lot of people from Hadestown on the podcast over time, and every one of them talk about their experience with him as like this sage in the room. There's a sage in the room at all times, and it's so interesting seeing him described like that and then playing a role where he is embodying all of
Yeah.
the descriptors that people use about being in his presence, including
Yeah.
he's like the way he can wink at something. And, you know, he's just a sly person also. Um,
I mean, it's fascinating, right? Because it's almost
yeah,
like it's and Andre, I think, will probably outlive us all. And it's such a culmination of all of the amazing gifts we've been able to see him
yeah,
hold in his instrument over the many years. that he's been with us. In a way, he's a walking archive of where theater
Mhm.
has been, all in one character. You,
Yeah.
you can see Judas in him. You can see the Wiz in him. You can see, you know, uh, Ain't Misbehaving, the kind of slyness, the jazziness, the slick.
Yes.
You can see Hermes and his old Deuteronomy, the kind of all knowing, and then he, with old Deuteronomy, kind of brings this other thing to his status. It's very easy to see him like on a mountain. But if you really
Yeah.
watch the show, the journey of his old Deuteronomy is coming from the mountain and embedding himself deeper and deeper and deeper into community. And that ethos was actually really important for him in the show.
Yeah.
So there's moments in which he, actively rejects the throne. There's moments in which he sits within the audience. There's moments where he usurps our expectations in terms of who he picks in what moment because he wants
Yeah.
to disrupt the space in a certain way. And so there's actually something that feels kind of new and complicated about the kind of all-knowing presence of both Old Deuteronomy and Andre in this piece.
Yeah, so much so. And also, I don't want to give anything away, but there's also a moment of tremendous vulnerability um, when
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's just, you just feel the weight. You feel the weight of what comes along with his history.
yeah.
And
I mean, a way that I would articulate it without giving it away is
uh,
that the outside comes inside, and we see the
mhm,
consequences of that.
right, perfectly, perfectly described. When you are weaving together from idea, like this is a great idea, now we have to do it, right? Like, okay, now what does that look like? And having the blessing of
Yeah,
the original cats, the founders and the makers. How do you decide like where the talent pool comes from? Because you are asking so much of this cast. It is,
yeah.
I mean, 8 shows a week in any musical is a big thing to hold, but this is particularly nonstop. Um,
Yeah, it's intense, and it's,
yeah.
I think there
How's everyone, how's everybody doing?
honestly, like the way any high performing athlete would be doing in
Got
the
it.
Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Like they're at the top of their game. They're getting, as much care as they can, and they're tired.
Hmm.
And it's unbelievably rigorous. And there is a whole nother magic trick to doing the show every night, which is making the audience feel as if it just happened for the first time to them. And that's an extremely high cost that
Yeah.
that these artists pay
Yeah.
for you to never see the work, for you to leave with a sense of astonishment. And that really is what it means to work on Broadway, period. And also what it means to be in this show is to contribute to a kind of illusion wherein you actually sacrifice, um, you know, it costs you something. You really are sacrificing a level of safety of your
Yeah.
own instrument to
Yeah.
make sure that audiences have the opportunity to expand their imagination, which I think is like the most important political tool that we have in this moment is the expansion
Mhm.
of the imagination.
Yeah.
So it's a push and a pull, and they're both um, the cast is thrilling and they are the most talented people I've ever met. And I
Yeah.
think ultimately what is holding them together is them holding each other up. And I think part of the joy that people experience is related to the relationships of these actors to each other on stage.
Yeah, you feel it and you see it in the moments where the spotlight isn't on them. They are just as alive and engaged with each other. I mean, it's actually just as fun to watch,
Yeah, yeah,
others in the space. Um, and I hope if you can bring this message to them, I hope they can feel our love and appreciation the entire
yeah.
time and that it feeds them a little bit because
I mean, honestly, it's sorry. Um,
no,
camera was shaking. It honestly is the thing that allows them to rise every night, knowing that they're going to meet that audience who are,
yeah,
feel so thrilled to have this experience with them.
yeah,
There were questions before we came to Broadway about, can we recreate that sense of event on Broadway? What will Broadway audiences do? Um, and we just never felt as if we had to shrink the integrity of our show for the fear that maybe Broadway audiences or middle of the America audiences or tourists or people who don't understand ballroom won't get it. Because I think from the years of making this show, what we know is that it isn't just ballroom, it isn't just cats. It's this other third event. And this third thing that we're making, this kind of circus of both forms, are coming together to provide something that I think Americans are hungry for, which is an opportunity to show each other that we can be together. And that togetherness doesn't have to be a kind of monolithic agreeing of all things or understanding of all things. There's actually this other way of being together, which is about actually coming to the table being like, this is what I know about this, and this is what I don't know about this. Who's here that I can connect my interests with, and who's here who can build my capacity to
Yeah.
understand more. And it's like, that's the space we want to be in. That's the space that commercial theater has an opportunity to create in this moment.
Well, you're meeting the moment with so much grace and power and beauty and artistry. And I know you're in the middle of auditions for more cats who are cats, who are not cats, all the kitties.
Right.
Um, I just I just want you to finish the sentence if you don't mind. When I was selling tickets in Times Square for Broadway shows, if you had told me,
If you had told me that I would really be a part of the change I was hoping to see in our industry, I wouldn't have believed it would happen so soon.
hmm,
I think that and this is something I still negotiate, even to this moment. There's
yeah,
these moments where I'm like looking and I'm like, who's going to do X, Y, and Z? Or when is this going to happen? And I'm like,
right.
oh, it's to my left, to my right, it's me. It's like we are the standard bearers of this moment. And any way we want this industry defined, we will be accountable to it for the generations that are coming up. And already there are people in college programs who are writing essays about this show. There are people who want to reach out and connect and be in my room and learn from the way in which my rehearsal rooms work. It's hard for directors to get into other directors' rooms.
Right.
And so to feel as if there's already been an impact, even though I feel like there's so much more I want to do and so much more impact to make, is humbling. And I think that 22-year-old standing in Times Square, hawking people down for tickets to Chicago. Um, I just hope that he's proud.
That he's proud. Yeah. All right. Before I let you go, is there a little known fact that you can share about you?
Yeah, I haven't said this on many interviews, but I have a phobia of cats, of actual domesticated feline pets.
Uh-huh.
And this has been true my whole life. So the great irony of this moment for people who really know is like, of course, Zhailon would direct a production of Cats where no one is an actual cat.
Oh my God, that's incredible. You are such a talented, magnificent, inspiring human being.
Well,
I'm
thank
so
you.
honored to have you on the podcast. I'm so
I'm honored to be here.
thrilled. Oh, well, thank you. And I can't wait to see all the things. And here's to more, just more, more you.
Hey, thank you so much for this. This was really sweet. Thank you.
Of course. I'll see you soon. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye.